was the night before Christmas, and all under the skies, children were sleeping, for they had tired eyes. Parents were watching Die Hard, because Christmas movies are bold. They all have action, thrills, and a story untold. But not everyone was with family on Christmas Eve. In a mountain full of logs and threats were adversaries. "We shall ruin the holiday season," they said with glee, because they were going to steal data and have their own shopping spree. With the crack of their knuckles and a swipe across the keyboard, they began to laugh, and then they roared. They explored and found where the logs were stored. And just like that, the websites were down. Only thing left for last-minute shoppers was a 404, where the page was not found. Even though Santa may bring smiles and gifts, these adversaries stole credit cards without causing a rift. So what does this mean, defenders and lab coats? Does this mean that Christmas is now a hoax? Never fear, my podcast listeners. As cyber defenders, we are winners, for we stop the adversaries and are home for the holiday dinners. Let us learn more about the holiday hacks, because we want to make sure our families are safe so we can relax. Now sit back and take a seat, open your ears, pick up your feet, and let me tell you about holiday tales. Yes, that is better than Die Hard on a much broader scale. Tune in, listeners. These stories aren't for beginners. Hi, and welcome, Cyber Defenders. My name is Reanna Schultz, and I'll be your aide today as I guide you through learning different opportunities through CyberSpeak Labs. During your time here, it's important for you to know that the lab is designed for us to collaborate and to learn. Today, we're going to put on our lab coats because it is the happiest season of them all. During this episode, there will be scary cyber stories and tales of the glories of defenders long, long ago. Let us use our laboratory instruments to deep dive into some holiday-themed breaches that could have ended very terribly for everyone during the season. Additionally, I want to say thank you to all the listeners this year. We are ending our first season strong, and within the first 5 months of this podcast going live, our lab has grown with hundreds of followers that are enjoying the collaboration to learn. Additionally, I want to say thank you to any of the guests that have been on the show within the last year or who have done recording that will be going live in 2025. I do encourage everyone that we do want to keep our lab growing, so make sure to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. I always say one of the most amazing things about being part of the cybersecurity community is how we can learn and grow from one another. Now hold your lab coats tight, for I'm about to tell you a story that began on a very wintry night. Now, this story starts with us having context about another holiday story known as the Grinch. And yes, I promise you, it is very important to know how the Grinch stole Christmas, because this specific cyber incident is themed after Dr. Seuss's 1957's children book. Now, if you aren't familiar with how the Grinch stole Christmas, well, I recommend you to watch it on a streaming service. And if you want a creepy holiday classic that will forever terrify my childhood, I suggest watching the 2000s live action with Jim Carrey. But if you want to watch one, in my opinion, that's a little more wholesome and from this century, there is a 2018 animated film with Benedict Cumberbatch that is just absolutely adorable in my opinion. So, long story short, basically, the Grinch is a hermit who is green and lives in a mountain and despises this village called Whoville, and inside this village is a bunch of Whos. He disguises himself as Santa, steals all of the Christmas presents and the joy, and ends up returning it all because he realizes that Christmas is more than just presents, about being together. So you might be asking, Reanna, why does this have anything to do with cyber? Well, just hold your sleigh horses. We're getting there. And yes, the Grinch is a pop culture icon for Christmas. However, in the year 2017, the name Grinch started to mean something different to those working in cyber defense. Now, this wasn't an uncommon practice where people would go buy high demand Christmas items like specific toys or merch, and then they would turn around and resell them on Facebook or eBay for a higher price to make a profit. You know, if we all remember COVID-19, I'm pretty sure I saw a bottle of Germex for $150 at some point on eBay. Now, regardless, going back to the holiday season, in 2017, this type of transaction skyrocketed, higher than Santa's reindeers. Also, full disclosure, there's gonna be plenty of holiday puns throughout this episode, so as I should have probably mentioned a disclaimer in the beginning, but whatever, you made it this far in the episode, so I assume you're committed to listening to the rest of this and all of my fun holiday bad jokes. So, continuing on, now in 2017, it was hard for scalpers to buy these toys that would have historically already been on eBay or in the store, and they would go pick it up, and then they would be on the street selling a Barbie doll that is $50 more than the store price. And because of 2017, we are moving away from the physical buy demand of these purchase products, and we're moving more towards that e-commerce website. And cyber researchers have noticed that these purchases were too quick on a product. Since the transactions were happening so quickly on these high demand products, normal online shoppers couldn't purchase these high visibility items at all. Now, if you're curious, in 2017, and this blows my mind that this was the #1 demand toy. The #1 consumer demanded toy in 2017 was fingerlings. I don't know if you remember this. I remember seeing commercials of these toys and I thought they were just absolutely psychotic looking. It was these robotic animals that would cling to a finger or a backpack, and it was essentially taking a pet to school or to the shopping mall or Chipotle, wherever these kids go. But this was a big year also for Sony and Microsoft. This was a huge time of them to advertise that PlayStation and of course Microsoft's Xbox consoles. And since purchases were going so fast and leaving normal day-to-day consumers with literally nothing, these consumers started filing complaints. Big e-commerce websites like Target, Walmart, and Amazon were starting to get high volume of these complaints, saying that they can't purchase products, they need to fix their inventory, this is ridiculous, how am I supposed to have Christmas without presents? Yep, now you're starting to see why The Grinch Stole Christmas is coming to play. Yet, within literal minutes, these e-commerce websites would post a large number of inventory of these high demand products, and just like that, with a snap of a finger, they were completely gone. But coincidentally, if you went over to eBay, you just started seeing a large amount of these items being sold for a very inflated price. So this started to puzzle everyone. Was this all of Santa's Workshop's elves sitting on computers purchasing fingerlings the moment they went up for sale? Well, since the volume of complaints were rising to these major e-commerce platforms, their IT teams did some digging into the transactions. It was very abnormal for customers to instantly buy all the products at once. But as teams started digging into the shopping history, it all started to resort to the same external source that was also bouncing between multiple accounts and multiple payment methods. Of course, with consumer frustration going to social media, this did pique some interest in the cyber researcher community. Reputable cyber firms such as Datadom, Distill Networks, and Imperva started to dive into this just a little bit deeper as well. What came out of these investigations was truly horrifying once these logs were completely analyzed. If we think about normal e-shopping behavior, we might think about how a user would log into a website. Maybe they'll browse, click around on an item, maybe click something that was related to similar shopping experiences, add it to the cart, and they might keep it in the cart for some time because they're probably finding maybe a discount code or price comparing it with other websites. So if you think about this, normal user traffic and behavior, seconds of purchasing all of these items at once, doesn't really line up here. So this traffic, as highlighted before, again, was instant purchasing. Investigation highlighted that the average time for these high volume purchases to happen was under 2 seconds, which, again, thinking about the average online shopper, clearly a red flag for something totally suspicious. So even though there was evidence of a single IP that was bouncing between different accounts and payment methods, investigation found that there were numerous IPs doing this type of activity. Again, if you aren't familiar with what an ASN is, this is a network of addresses that share the same network provider. And this is what this investigation was telling, that there is a large number of these ASNs who are shopping in under seconds, bouncing between accounts and payment methods, purchasing all of these high demand items super fast. And where if we think about a normal shopper, they have maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 devices, such as like a laptop, a phone, or an iPad to do online shopping with. These ASNs from the same network provider, we're talking about like hundreds and thousands. So as investigators were collecting this information, they began to piece this behavior as something eerily familiar, especially with activity that exhibits a pattern and when its behavior is the same across many different e-commerce platforms. Historically, this has been related to a threat called a bot. Now, these bots were originally called scalper bots, and that's because how they would poach consumer products. However, with it being the holiday season, researchers gave this activity a more festive and newer name called the Grinch Bot, due to the rise of activity during the holiday season and taking away everyone's holiday presents and stealing away their joy. See, I told you it's important to know about the Grinch, except one Grinch returned all the gifts and these Grinch bots obviously made a mad profit on eBay. So now as we look further into the code of these Grinch bots, I brought insight on how truly sophisticated these attacks are. As we talk about web application security, it's most of the time promoted to use settings such as CAPTCHA to ensure that bots can't make it to the consumer side of a server and bring it down or even able to gain access for malicious purpose. If we think about it, these attacks were focused mostly on major retail stores. Again, Target, Walmart, Amazon, which were known to take security serious with their platform and implement factors such as CAPTCHA. So how were these attacks successful? Well, the code for these bots weren't kept a secret. They were sold on cybercriminal forums where the code was eventually disclosed to cyber researchers. Now, I'm going to emphasize a heavy disclaimer here. Please ensure you're using cyber practices at a legal and ethical level. Our lab research is designed to bring education awareness, not promote cybercrime. So anyways, back to this Grinch bot. Now, once this code was disclosed, this is where researchers could reverse engineer the malware to learn more about its origins and how it was designed to execute the fraudulent behavior. The first layer of this code was highlighted towards the bot's design to scrape the web. The bot had code, so it was designed to extract data from a web page, which allowed it to monitor specific e-commerce websites for inventoried items. It would look for keywords such as in stock, out of stock, not for sale, and it was designed to check not 1, not 50, but thousands of websites per second for specific attributes and keywords that was programmed into it. So once the bot identified the desired product, it will then go through the checkout process. How the bot was programmed, it was able to successfully go through a checkout process in milliseconds. And it was done by autofilling billing, shipping, and payment information automatically. And once the bot identified in-stock items, it would add all the available items to the cart, and then go through the autofilled billing and order confirmation details. And if the bot received a server error attempting to check out, which either means the purchase had failed or the server is designed to throttle the IP, then the bot will go through a different IP. So that way it wasn't getting rate limited by the server, or it would try a different purchasing method. So it was scripted all through this process. Now, again, these were major retailer websites who implemented cybersecurity practices like CAPTCHA. So how did these bots bypass CAPTCHA? That was the one major question throughout this investigation. And that was one interesting factor about what made this attack so sophisticated. Upon analyzing the bot's code, researchers discovered that these bots were designed to bypass CAPTCHA using two methods. One of them was depending on the CAPTCHA puzzle. These bots were designed to have optical character recognition, also known as OCR. This allowed the bot to solve CAPTCHAs by looking at the letters or numbers on the page and being able to submit back what they recognized as well. Another method that they used was called CAPTCHA farming. And it is exactly how it sounds. There were real people solving CAPTCHA challenges for these bots. Yes, real humans who had to be fast typers to ensure the bots could continue their fraudulent activity. Do not do this. Do not sign up to be a CAPTCHA farmer. It is illegal. These are cyber criminals. So to avoid web application firewalls and rate limiting logic, these bots would randomize their behavior between their web requests. This would be alternative to the speed of how they're navigating through a page or other actions like how fast they were purchasing. That way, the web application firewall would have a harder and more difficult time to recognize that these are malicious bot behaviors. Because again, bots are very pattern behaviored. Another factor these bots had was that they're able to spoof user agents. Sometimes web applications will block specific user agents, maybe ones that are outdated or ones that aren't traditional. The Grinch bot used user agents to make it appear as if it's coming from a legit browser. And this allowed them to camouflage with legitimate users to appear more human-like than just something that's automated. So this information was absolutely key for security researchers and companies, because this information allowed them to create public awareness during this holiday season. This awareness had enforced purchase limits on high demand items and restricting customers to buy 1 unit per transaction or person. Some websites even started to implement virtual waiting rooms where customers had to quote unquote wait in line to purchase an item after the previous person. Because of these types of events, CAPTCHA started to become more sophisticated. They started using images like traffic lights or buses, ones that I am truthfully terrible at at figuring out. I'm terrible at CAPTCHA. You know, most of the CAPTCHA things probably just assume I'm a bot. But this allowed a more difficult way for bots to recognize, since they're implementing character recognition technology and not visual images. Other CAPTCHAs were getting deployed, such as behavioral CAPTCHAs. This is where a user would have to click and drag a slider or even align different images to make a single picture, which majority of the bots can't perform that human element of the task. Unless, you know, they probably go through the CAPTCHA farming process. Now, additionally, security researchers really promoted geo-blocking. And this was really useful for e-commerce websites that didn't have sales or operations conducted in a specific region. They would just completely block any traffic that was associated or coming from that area. And this helped eliminate not just bot traffic, but any unnecessary traffic to that web application. Eventually, threats like the Grinch bot led to collaboration with law enforcement in some countries, like the United States, where they implemented a law called Stopping Grinch Bot Act of 2021. This enforced and prevented scalpers and bots targeting limited edition products. Under this law, using a bot to buy products for the sole purpose to resell it at a higher price is now officially led to legal action and penalties. So even though the Grinch was caught stealing Christmas that year, there is another holiday tale that is just as peculiar to hear about, almost as if it's an urban legend. So defenders in lab coats, let's take a short break. I want to make sure that you're staying up and awake And our next assignment's more than just reindeer games. It's about a time where the holidays almost went down in flames. Enjoy the festive tunes. We'll be returning back to the lab assignment here again soon. Welcome back to the lab defenders and lab coats. Let's gather around the microscope for this one. We are going to be taking a closer look at this discovery. This discovery is transporting us to the year of 1999, a year where home office and computers were almost becoming a staple in every modern home or corporate office. With this becoming the new cutting edge technology, and the fear of computers taking over in Y2K. Yes, that is the foreshadow into next month's episode. It is also when computer games were emerging. A company called Instorm did not let this opportunity to go to waste. Instorm got together and wanted to develop a fun, quirky, holiday-themed game that captured the light-hearted spirit of the Christmas season. So, in November of 1999, Instorm released Elf Bowling, just in time for the holiday season. Not gonna lie, if you look up this game on YouTube or Reddit, it is a really, really super cute game. The graphics obviously did not age well during the time. If you have a Nintendo DS still, you could probably go to a secondhand game shop and buy this for the DS, but it's just completely adorable. The game is designed around a backstory with Santa and his elves at the North Pole. The elves are very troublesome, who are no help to the Christmas preparation. So Santa had enough of the elf antics, and instead of forcing the elves into payless labor, Santa uses the elves as bowling pins and chucks a bowling ball at them. 'Tis the season for bowling. I think in today's world, they would call that a worker strike, but Santa had a different idea of a strike for the elves. I thought I was funny with that pun. Anyways, even though Elf Bowling did not receive any large recognition for the video game design, it was often advertised as the most downloaded and most played game around the holiday season. Specifically through game portals like Shockwave, where Elf Bowling was featured highly on their website. Even though quote-unquote going viral was not a buzzword in 1999, this game would have met the standard for it at the time. Eventually, with an estimated of being downloaded over 1 million times during its peak, Elf Bowling went down in history to be a cult classic of early video gaming. However, as Elf Bowling gained its popularity, the developers decided to release Elf Bowling 2 in the early thousands as well, where instead of forcing the elves to stay at the North Pole to build toys while Santa eats cookies, Santa decided to take the elves to a tropical paradise as a vacation from making so many toys. How nice of Santa. But Santa couldn't relax due to the elves going back to their troublesome antics, so Santa then decided to play another game of bowling with the elves, except in paradise. Like seriously, if I worked for a guy who gave me no benefits, no vacation, no cookies, and expected me to work 365 days a year, I would probably act out as well. So good for these elves, bad Santa. Of course, when Elf Bowling 2 got dropped, it again rose to popularity. The game was advertised as whimsical and fun with exotic colors now. So we have the setting of the story. We know about this game. It's a wonderful, fun-filled video game with Santa Claus hurting his employees. What can go wrong? Nothing, right? just a holiday game. Wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Now, let me tell you, normally with all of my podcast episodes, I spend maybe a month or two in advance just doing research for you all. Additionally, there's also volunteers that help with CyberSpeak Labs to ensure and provide additional research, just to make sure this podcast is detailed and thorough for you all. This game and the urban legend behind it blows my mind. And it might be because of how we recorded data in 1999 for computer antics. There are so many rumors and theories as to what happened to this fun-filled holiday game. It also doesn't help that most of the information about this game and what happened to it is word of mouth or comes from older blogs or people commenting about their nostalgic childhood. Either way, it is enough for us to try to take a closer look and make our own hypothesis out of these urban cyber legends. And we'll start with the original Elf Bowling game. There are rumors that the game gained its popularity not because it was fun, but the fact that the original game had a computer virus. Now, if this doesn't reflect security education awareness programs in today's world, where users are like, oh, I'm just curious, so I'm gonna click and download this because I wanna know what's gonna happen. It also happened in 1999. We have not evolved with technology. But again, I have no evidence to support that statement where the original game was a virus. But from one article from Data Doctors, it did provide evidence of something extremely suspicious. They had posted contents of an email from 1999. It had the subject, forward virus alert. And with the contents that I state, and I quote, to all, if you have received any of these games, frogpult.exe and elfbowling.exe, please can you delete them completely off of your systems, as they both have a delayed virus attached to them that will be activated on Christmas Day and will wipe your system. Let everyone know of this, thanks. Now, Data Doctors also commented on this email, highlighting how hoax emails are still a thing, and this was an example of one from 1999. And if you were to analyze suspicious cyber emails, to me, this has so many red flags as to why this is not a legit email. But according to numerous computer articles, emails like this were flying around in 1999. This holiday urban legend gets even more fun. Apparently, people were claiming to have their information stolen by this elf game, how it was secretly a Trojan on their computer. The claim stated that people were downloading the Trojanized version by accepting copies of the game through emails, which back then, mail servers allowed people to send exe files. Some people also claimed to get a Trojanized version from instant messaging or freeware websites. These claims often led to their computers being infected with a payload that would steal banking information or was spyware and was secretly spying which keys and passwords they were typing. Again, no actual evidence that this was truly a virus. In fact, the developers of the game didn't even say there was anything malicious about the game. They're like, no, what's posted out there is the real thing, it's legit, it's fun to play for all. So that's essentially what happened with the first elf game. Now, let's get into how this urban legend folds into Elf Bowling 2. As these rumors were flying, this did not change how popular Elf Bowling was. But when Elf Bowling 2, these urban legends just did not stop. People were claiming that Elf Bowling 2 was also secretly spyware. Again, there was no true proof, but if you look at the source code of that second game, which someone very, very politely did post online and did a breakdown of, anonymous, otherwise I would give them credit, there was a tiny beacon to an external source. But if you look at the code of the game, it looked completely expected. But to an average user playing the game, it would have most likely been unnoticed that any of this was happening behind the UI configurations. So these urban legends still exist today. Even with Gen AI models, if you ask it about Elf Bowling and how it got breached, it will spit out information as if the attack actually happened, as if there was a Christmas kaboom about to emerge of 1999, which if Y2K did happen, I guess we could have blamed Santa and his troublesome elves for it. But as we fast forward through time, cyber bulletins are still talking about hoax virus bulletins, with elf bullying still being a trending topic to this day. Now, if you ask my opinion, was there really ever a virus embedded in this game? My personal opinion, no, I don't think so. But it doesn't mean that adversaries wouldn't jump on a hoax to embed something malicious, especially in today's world. The original elf bullying games no longer exist, but if you kind of type around on Google or do anything searching wise, you can find similar versions or replicas of the original Windows game on freeware websites. Again, I want to highlight that not everything is free on the internet. Even innocent software games that look like elves and Santa can have malicious intent. And also remember, social engineering comes in more than one form. Curiosity is not always safe for the cat. So this is all the holiday tales and stories I have for you today in the lab, Cyber Defenders. I am curious as to what your opinions are with holiday cyber threats. My takeaway for this episode is to really take the time to think before interacting with holiday emails or free games in general. If it seems too good to be true, it most likely is. Additionally, take the time to do your research before spreading false information, especially in today's world of emerging AI. Information can be distorted or untrue, and taking the time to verify with multiple resources can help prevent the spread of false information. I always go with the form of 3. Lastly, ensure that your information is protected this holiday season. It's prime season, not for deals, but for information to get stolen. I personally always update my banking information around the holidays and after to prevent unauthorized logins. I always ensure MFA is enabled, and of course, I always encourage everyone to use a password safe to store credentials. Most smartphones use one by default these days, and they are usable. Again, thank you for joining me in the CyberSpeak Labs, Defenders, and Lab Coats. My name is Reanna Schultz, your podcast host and lab aide throughout today's episode. I also want to give a huge thanks to Hammaz Ahmed for assisting me with this episode's research. If you do not follow Hammaz on LinkedIn, I highly recommend it. He's very passionate and is always promoting the projects he's working on. I've included a link to his social media down below in the description. Additionally, if you can like, share, and follow the podcast on Spotify or YouTube, this really helps support the channel. We are looking at potentially releasing new features for our AI canines in the CyberSpeak Labs in 2025. And our follower supports help provide resources to aid the community to continue to learn. Thank you all again, and I look forward to seeing you in the lab again soon. Remember to stay jolly and cyber safe this season. See ya!